Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the boxing awards, and this is going to be on the best performance in defeat. Now, before we get into that, if you could hit the like button, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get. So my 2023 boxing awards, basically the best performance in defeat. This is one I do every year where it's basically, to me, the fighter, a fighter that was defeated, but put on an outstanding performance in defeat. You know, but nothing is black and white. There's always wiggle room here. Circumstances happen. You will understand what I'm talking about as we get into the video. In terms of like controversial losses where a fighter should not have lost, normally I would have maybe not had a fight like that on this, you know, on my boxing awards, you know, because that would have been my most controversial, and I felt like the guy didn't lose, so why should he be on the best performance in defeat? Well, if technically he did lose because the judges or it was a bad call, you know, then that still needs to be recognized in my book. So that's what we're going off of. Now, talking about last year's award for this, I gave it to Gary Russell's 12-round majority decision loss to Mark Magsayo for the WBC featherweight title. That won the award last year. I remember that award. That was primarily because Gary Russell fought most of that fight with one shoulder and still only lost a majority decision to Magsayo, you know, and I just thought that was impressive as hell to fight that hard and come up just a little short. So that was my award for best performance in defeat. So now this year we're going to go through every division from 126 all the way to heavyweight with any candidates that we have, and then I'm going to get to my top 10 for most best performance in defeat. And if a fight, I'm going to discuss every fight briefly, but every fight that is a finalist from its division, I'm just going to tell you that it was a finalist and stop there and get into it when we talk about the top 10, if that makes sense. So buckle up, here we go. 122 super bantamweight. I got 3 candidates there. First off was Rais Salim's 12-round split decision loss to Sam Goodman. Good performance right here out of Alim. He was the favorite coming in. He was undefeated. Sam Goodman was undefeated as well, but he really only had the credit of defeating TJ Doheny earlier in the year as his, you know, swan song. And it was in Australia, but Alim was still a solid favorite coming into this fight. And first half of the fight was close. Second half, Goodman just turned on an extra gear and was able to outwork Rais Salim and walk away with a 12-round split decision victory and become the IBS mandatory challenger. But Alim fought his ass off. He did fight hard. He just came up short. The next candidate at 122 is MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev. His 12-round split decision loss to Marlon Taplis. That is a finalist, so we will discuss that in the top 10. Also, a candidate at 122 was Azat Havanassian's 11th round knockout loss to Luis Nery. That also is a finalist. We will discuss that in the top 10. At 126, I had 5 candidates for this award at 126. I know I probably should have narrowed everything down to number 3, or to the top 3, but I got, this is when I was first starting my boxing award, so bear with me. First up is Lee Wood's 7th round TKO loss to Mauricio Lara. Wood was really outworking and outboxing Lara in this one, pretty much the entire fight, and then he got caught in the 7th round, and that was pretty much it. He got caught with a left hook in the 7th round, put down, and when he got up, he was on such shaky legs that his manager, Ben Davidson, decided he didn't want to see Wood take any more punishment, that he felt he was going to get hurt, so he stopped the fight. So, but Lee Wood was well ahead on the scorecards at the time of the stoppage. Tough break for him, but that was a close to making it as a finalist. The next candidate at 126 is Mark Magsayo's 12-round unanimous decision loss to Brandon Figueroa. That is a finalist. We will discuss that in the top 10. Next up is Joet Gonzalez's 12-round unanimous decision loss to Luis Alberto Lopez as he challenged for the IBF featherweight title. You know, we knew this one was going to be a banger. We didn't know how well Gonzalez was going to do against Lopez because the jury's still kind of out on how really good Lopez is. But it was a good all-action fight. Gonzalez kept coming, and Lopez just narrowly outworked him. Gonzalez put up a great fight. Tough, unanimous decision loss, but it was somewhat close. Next candidate at 126 was Josh Warrington's 7th-round TKO loss to Lee Wood. This was almost a mirror image of Lee Wood's TKO loss to Mauricio Lara that we just talked about. I mean, Josh Warrington, I believe going into the 7th round, I had him winning 5 of the 6 rounds. He was just outworking Lee Wood, beating him to the punch. His timing was better. He was looking sharp and good. And Lee Wood just caught him with a wicked combination in the 7th round, hurt him badly and put him down. And when he got up and turned the opposite way, the referee just stopped the fight. Josh Warrington was fucked up, and it was I thought it was a good stoppage by the ref, and but he was well ahead. He was fighting his ass off at the time of the stoppage, so a tough defeat there. Almost made it as a finalist, but the fact that fight and Wood's loss also against Lara, the fact that those fights ended in the 7th round just at around the halfway point, that's what kind of bucked them out versus the guys that made the top 10. So that's why those aren't finalists, because they were close. The final candidate at 126 is Robeisy Ramirez's 12-round majority decision loss to Rafael Espinoza for the WBO featherweight title. This is a finalist. We will talk about it in the top 10. 130, I have 5 candidates there as well. First up was Liam Wilson's 9th-round TKO loss to Emmanuel Navarrete as they competed for the vacant WBO super featherweight title. Wilson came in a solid underdog in this fight. Navarrete was moving up to a 3rd weight class to try to win a world title, but Liam Wilson, undefeated, but he hadn't really beaten anybody to that point. And then early on, he scored a knockdown on Navarrete, which was surprising. And he fought hard, but Navarrete got up and just systematically broke him down and stopped him in the 9th round. So it was a good performance in defeat, but he did get decisively defeated and lost by a TKO, but a good performance by Liam Wilson. Next up was Rakhimov. Jesus, why am I drawing a blank on his first name right now? Rakhimov, his 12-round split decision loss to Joe Cordina. This was a finalist, so this one did not make, or this one we will discuss in the top 10. Next is Edward Vasquez's 12-round majority decision loss to Joe Cordina. This one, I kind of gave it the eyeball test. I didn't really give it a full, look because I was working at the time, so I was going back and forth. But, I mean, I didn't have a problem with Joe Cordina winning a close decision, but Edward Vasquez fought a good-ass fight, and he was a heavy underdog coming in. He did fight well. He was definitely in it. He did lose a majority decision, and I felt like the right winner got the call. I mean, the right guy got the call, but he did fight hard, and it was a good performance in challenging for a title, and that's why he cracked my top 10, so that's it. Next is Rocky Hernandez's 12th round TKO loss to O'Shaquie Foster as he challenged for the WBC title. This is a finalist. I'll discuss it in my top 10. And then the final candidate at 130 was Hector Luis Garcia's 12-round split decision loss to Lamont Roach Jr. as he lost the WBA super featherweight title at 130. This was a good-ass fight. I think everybody knew it was going to be a good boxing match. It wasn't going to be a brawl, and it was just that. They boxed well against each other. It was a good matchup. But in I think it was the 11th or 12th round, Lamont Roach scored a controversial knockdown because he clearly hit him behind the head, hit Garcia behind the head. I don't think it was intentional, but it was a clear behind the head shot, and Garcia went down, and the referee ruled it a knockdown. And that was the difference between Garcia retaining his title. So it was definitely a controversial call, because that 1 point loss on Garcia's scorecards lost him the world title. It would have been a draw if that knockdown didn't occur, and it shouldn't have been scored a knockdown. So definitely a strong performance in defeat, and by Hector Luis Garcia. 135 lightweight, we got I think 4 candidates there, or 3 candidates, I'm sorry. First off is Vasily Lomachenko's 12-round unanimous decision loss against Devin Haney as he challenged for the undisputed lightweight title. This is a finalist. I'll discuss it in my top 10. Next was Maxie Hughes's 12-round majority decision loss to George Kambosos Jr. George Kambosos fought his ass off in this fight. I mean, both did. Maxie Hughes really fought his ass off against Kambosos as well. And, you know, Kambosos came in a solid favorite, and with the victory, he's moved into the into a title shot against Vasily Lomachenko. So the victory meant a lot for Kambosos, but the loss, Maxie Hughes fought so well in a performance that most people thought he was going to get decisively defeated, that he's earned himself a final eliminator for both the WBA and the IBF titles at 135 now against William Zepeda, and that fight's taking place in mid-March. So this was a very good and solid performance by Maxie Hughes that earned him something major. So a good performance in defeat. Some people thought he won that fight. Then the last one is Giovanni Cabrera's 12-round majority decision loss to Isaac Cruz as they competed for the, you know, as in their contenders bout. Cabrera just put on a much better fight than people were expecting. A lot of people thought Cruz was going to roll right through him. Cabrera was undefeated, though, and he fought his ass off. He fought like an undefeated fighter that wasn't used to losing, and he lost a close split decision in a good fight. So that was it there. 140, I have 2 candidates. First off, Richard Commey's 11th round knockout loss to Jose Ramirez. Commey, you know, Ramirez came in a solid favorite, but Commey, a lot of people thought he'd be competitive, myself included, and he fought his ass off in this fight, and he kept fighting, he kept chucking. Every time he thought he was done, he would just throw more and be right in the fight with Ramirez, but Ramirez just broke him down. Commey's an older fighter. Ramirez broke him down and just stopped him in the 11th, but Commey fought his ass off. The other candidate is Ishmael Barroso's 9th round TKO loss to Rolly Romero. This is a finalist for me, and I will discuss it in my, when I get to, you know what, no, it's not a finalist. It came very close, but this was a controversial stoppage. It was. Rolly Romero did not deserve to win this fight. Ishmael Barroso was winning decisively on the scorecards, and he did get stunned in the 9th round. I do not deny that against Rolly Romero, and we don't know what would have happened in the championship rounds afterwards, but Ishmael Barroso was still throwing punches back, and he was definitely in the fight, and he was not hurt to the extent that the fight should have been stopped when it was stopped. So Tony Weeks, bad call. Ishmael Barroso got it wrong. This just missed my top 10, but again, it will be in my, it's more of a more controversial fight, so it will be in that list as a little, you know, sneak preview right there. 147 only had 1 candidate. Abel Ramos' 12-round majority decision loss to Cody Crowley. Cody Crowley, undefeated, welterweight contender on the rise, good boxer, had a couple decent wins over the last couple years. Abel Ramos, a veteran that people kind of forgot about following a upset loss to some unknown fighter in 2022. So Abel Ramos coming in, a lot of people thought he was going to be a serve him up type opponent for Cody Crowley. And boy, did they get it wrong. Abel Ramos fought his ass off in this fight. Good, hard, tough performance against Crowley. He lost a close majority decision, so he made it as a candidate. 154, I got 4 candidates. First off, Brian Mendoza, his 12-round unanimous decision loss to Tim Tszyu. No doubt Tim Tszyu won this fight, but Brian Mendoza fought his ass off and fought hard. And I think a lot of people thought Tszyu was going to blow him away, and Mendoza was hard in that fight, fought his ass off, no shame, did well. in this defeat right here. So definitely deserved to be on the list. Next was Sebastian Fundora's 7th round knockout loss to Brian Mendoza. Fundora was a heavy favorite, and he was dominating the action through 6 rounds and into the 7th, and he got caught with a wicked left hook and right hand combination that put him down hard and laid him out. A tough loss right there, but Fundora was winning the entire fight prior to being stopped. So, you know, a great performance, even though he got caught and knocked out in this fight. Next was Jesus Ramos' 12-round unanimous decision loss to Erickson Lubin. It made the list because it was a close decision loss, but it was a fight where neither guy did enough, in my opinion, especially in terms of the build to the fight. But it was still a good, you know, still a close fight, and a fight that a lot of people thought Ramos might have won. So it does make it as a candidate, at least. And the final candidate was Michel Soro's 12-round split decision loss to Magomed Kurbanov. Nobody really saw that one coming right there. You know, well, I mean, Soro is a veteran, been around for a long time, and Kurbanov is a fighter that over the last couple of years, since his split decision victory over Liam Smith, we don't really know how good he is yet because he hasn't received that big shot. And I just think it was a little disappointing that you know, we didn't. It was a little disappointing that Soro and Kurbanov don't get more love. But Soro, after fighting Ismail Madrimov the year before to a close, you know, to close fights and controversial fights, he's still banging around at an older age, fighting. So I like him. And, you know, this deserved to be on the list. Next is the next candidate. Our next is 160. Only one candidate there. That was Julian J-Rock Williams' 9th round TKO loss to Carlos Adames. J-Rock was in that fight. He was getting beat on the cards, but he was in that fight fighting his ass off. And I thought it might have been a little bit of a premature stoppage, maybe, but I think he was going to get stopped no matter what. But considering he's been out of big-time fights for a couple of years now, this was a good-ass performance against a top 3 fighter at middleweight. So that deserved to be in it. Next is Sergey Derevyanchenko's unanimous decision loss to Jaime Munguia at 168. It's the only candidate at 168, and that is a finalist, so we'll talk about it in the top 10. 175 light heavyweight, only one candidate there as well. That was Anthony Yarde's 8th round TKO loss to Arthur Beterbiev as he challenged for the unified light heavyweight title. That one made my list as well, my finalist, so we'll talk about that in the top 10. 200 cruiserweight. There's three of them here. First is Lawrence Okolie's 12-round majority decision loss to Chris Billam-Smith as he lost the WBO cruiserweight title. That is a finalist. We'll discuss that in the top 10. Next was Mateusz Masternak's 8th round TKO loss to Chris Billam-Smith. Masternak was winning this fight convincingly on 2 of the 3 cards when the stoppage happened, but the stoppage happened due to an injury, a rib injury suffered by Masternak, so he had to retire, and it's a TKO loss for Masternak. But Masternak, I mean, yeah, for Masternak, but at his age to go in there and fight that kind of fight, it was his first ever title shot, and to be winning convincingly on the cards at the time of the stoppage, I had to put it as a candidate. And then the final candidate at 200 was Joe Smith Jr.'s unanimous decision loss to Gilberto Ramirez. Joe Smith, I really thought was going to get his ass beat in this fight. It was a cruiserweight fight. He came out and fought hard. He convincingly lost. No doubt, I thought he lost the fight, but he fought hard and was in the fight, competitive in the fight, and that's why he made it as a candidate. And the final candidate was Francis Ngannou's 10-round split decision loss to Tyson Fury in a heavyweight attraction. Nobody saw this coming. That's a finalist though, and we'll discuss that when we get to the top 10. So now let's look at the top 10, the finalists, and go from 10 to 1 and see how this goes. Now, I messed up a little bit, and then I'm making the correction now. I called it a finalist, but it really shouldn't be a finalist because it was a controversial fight that I did not feel Vasily Lomachenko lost. I am with the majority that felt like Vasily Lomachenko clearly won this fight, but I wouldn't call it a robbery. I had it about 8-4 to 9-3, and Haney was competitive, but he lost clearly in my book. So I cannot include this fight if I do not feel the fighter was defeated, even closely defeated. So Vasily Lomachenko, I'm mentioning that before we jump to the top 10. So at number 10, I went with Anthony Yarde's 8th round TKO loss to Artur Beterbiev as he challenged for the unified light heavyweight title. Now, other fighters went into the 9th round and lost by knockout. The knockout losses when you're ahead on the cards, where Yarde was ahead on the cards against Beterbiev, the knockout losses couldn't hurt you, to drop out of the top 10. The reason Anthony Yarde made this is because Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol were the clear 1A and 1B at 175, and nobody thought Anthony Yarde was coming into this fight with a chance in hell. And especially, I think more people thought his only chance was to catch Beterbiev cold and knock him out because Yarde is a power puncher. Yarde was winning this fight on the scorecards, which means he was outworking and outboxing Artur Beterbiev when he got stopped in the 8th round. To me, that is impressive as hell, because Beterbiev, as you saw against Callum Smith recently, is an absolute bully in the ring. And this is only the second time in the 20 knockouts by Beterbiev that he's been losing on the scorecards at the time of stoppage. And so for Anthony Yarde to be winning this fight at all on the scorecards, which how technically sound and good Beterbiev is, that was impressive to me, and that earned a top 10 spot. Even though the stoppage was clear and it was in the 8th round, which it didn't even make it to the championship rounds, but most fighters don't get to the championship rounds against Artur Beterbiev. So that's why this one made it where it made it. Number 9, Mark Magsayo's 12-round unanimous decision loss to Brandon Figueroa. This was a good, hard-fought battle that, again, most people thought Figueroa, myself included, was going to clearly defeat Mark Magsayo. Magsayo fought his ass off. He deserved a better scorecard on this one. I did feel he lost, but he fought his ass off against a very tough and big featherweight that brings the pain, and he was in that fight the whole way and kept fighting back and definitely did great. Tough performance, but he deserved to be in the top 10. Number 8 was Rocky Hernandez's 12th round TKO loss to O'Shaquie Foster. The reason this one is where it's at is because Rocky Hernandez was clearly winning this fight when he came in a heavy underdog. Nobody thought Rocky Hernandez was gonna beat O'Shaquie Foster, let alone be ahead on the scorecards at the time that he lost the fight. His only time he ever stepped up prior to this was against former champ Roger Gutierrez, and he got knocked out in the 1st round. He kind of got gifted the WBC's mandatory spot, and O'Shaquie Foster only fought him because he couldn't get anybody else to fight him. So everything kind of fell in place to where Rocky Hernandez was lucky, and boy did he take advantage of that luck. He was outworking and out-hustling a very good boxer in O'Shaquie Foster. Then in the later rounds, Foster just started landing shots. They started trading. He hurt Rocky Hernandez badly in the 10th and almost finished him. But he also punched himself out to where Rocky landed a couple big shots at the end of the round that hurt Foster. And then both of them kind of got their legs back in the 11th to some degree. But once Foster got his back, he just broke down a tired Rocky Hernandez heading into the 12th and stopped him. But Rocky Hernandez, at the time of the stoppage in the 12th, he makes it to the final bell. He wins this fight and becomes the world champion. But he fought his ass off the entire fight, came up a little short, tough defeat, but man, what a good performance out of him. So he made it into the top 10. Number 7, Lawrence Okolie's 12-round majority decision loss to Chris Billam-Smith as he would lose the WBO Cruiserweight title. Tough loss. He took multiple knockdowns in this fight, but Lawrence Okolie kept fighting. Definitely overlooked Chris Billam-Smith. And I thought it was a shame that he didn't take a rematch with him. But man, he did fight hard in this one. He kept coming and he did not take a knockout. So I had to include Lawrence Okolie on this one for a best performance in defeat. Number 6, MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev's 12-round split decision loss to Marlon Tapales, where he lost the unified super bantamweight title to Tapales. Tough loss right here for MJ. He fought his ass off in this fight. He really did. But he came up short against Tapales here. You know, he came in. I definitely feel he overlooked Tapales without a question. Because Tapales, you know, as I said, I mean, he was a mandatory challenger, but he really hadn't done, in my opinion, hadn't done anything to earn this fight. And, you know, anything major. And he had already got his shot before and got knocked out against Ryosuke Iwasa, who was a guy that had been defeated by the same by MJ. He got stopped by MJ. So I felt coming into this fight that he was just going to be outperformed and outgunned. And man, but that was also predicated on the fact that most people thought he was going to slug it out with MJ, and he did not. He boxed, counterpunched. MJ in the second half of the fight fought his ass off and got more in and won the majority of the second half of the fight, but Tapales was just too good on this night, and MJ lost a close split decision. Now we get into the top 5. Number 5 was Shavkat Rakhimov's 12-round split decision loss to Joe Cordina, as he lost the 130-pound super featherweight title to Cordina. Good fight. A lot of people thought it was 50-50 going in. I actually picked Rakhimov to win this fight, but he fought his ass off. He took a knockdown, and that kind of was the difference, because when it went to the scorecards, he lost a close split decision to Cordina in his home country. But the fact that he fought as well as he did, he went out like a true defending champion. And you know what? After the victory, Cordina didn't call out Rakhimov's name for a rematch. And I'm sorry, you win by split decision and you take a guy's title, you give his ass a rematch. And he did not do that. So that shows you what kind of a tough opponent Rakhimov is. And hopefully he gets his opportunity at it again. But, well, you know, that's besides the point. But a good performance by him. Number 4 goes to Robeisy Ramirez's 12-round majority decision loss to Rafael Espinosa, as he lost the WBO featherweight title at 126. Good ass fight right here. But Robeisy Ramirez went in against a guy that was 6 inches taller and had a 6-inch reach advantage. Yes, Espinosa hadn't done anything to that point, but still the physical advantages were just significant. And Robeisy was in the fight. It was a good close battle halfway through. And then he caught Espinosa in the 7th round, I think, with a wicked right hand that put Espinosa down hard, almost stopped him. And then Espinosa got up, found his legs, and kind of took control of the action. But Robeisy was still landing some great shots and in the fight. Good, hard, tough battle. And Ramirez came up just shy, losing his title. But a good performance that we hopefully can see a rematch of this year. Top 3, number 3. Number 3 goes to Azat Hovhannissian's 11th round knockout loss to Luis Nery. This is a fight of the year candidate. This was a fucking war right here. They went at it, but Hovhannissian, in a battle where he was definitely in, he was like winning the fight at the time. I think it was close. No, it was a dead even fight going into the 11th round, but most people had Hovhannissian winning the momentum and looking like he was going to stop Nery. And he kept battling, he kept coming forward after being outworked the first half of the fight, the first 5 rounds. He was getting outworked by Nery, but in it, and then he closed the gap and just kept pushing. A great hard-nosed battle, and then he got caught in the 11th round and knocked out in this eliminator. Tough defeat, but man, he kept coming. Great performance. Number 2, I got to go with Francis Ngannou's 10-round split decision loss to Tyson Fury in their heavyweight showdown. For Francis Ngannou to come in his first ever fight and fight this way against the #1 heavyweight in the world in Tyson Fury. Yes, Fury was overlooking him, but just to perform and score a knockdown and fight as hard as he did, that was impressive as hell. And I had to include Ngannou in this fight. I really did. It was a good, solid performance. And if it would have been a 12-rounder for the WBC title, then he might have won the award. But I couldn't do it because it was only a 10-round bout, and I couldn't put that over a 12-rounder significant fight, not a fight that probably should have been an exhibition bout to begin with. But a great performance nonetheless by Ngannou. He makes it number 2. But number 1, the best performance in defeat in 2023, Sergey Derevyanchenko's 12-round unanimous decision loss to Jaime Munguia in their battle at 168. Going into this fight, most people felt Jaime Munguia was going to dominate Sergey Derevyanchenko. I felt that way. I felt like, hey, this is a lock right here. He's 10 years younger, 11 years younger, something like that. And he's more of the naturally bigger fighter. So moving up to 168 is going to be a breeze for him. And he's going to end up stopping a tough Derevyanchenko. We all know Derevyanchenko's a tough-ass fighter, and he brings it. But at his age, I don't even feel like he should have been in this fight. And he absolutely was in this fight. I mean, I still, given the eyeball test, again, I didn't sit down and focus fully on this fight. I was coming in and out, and I was watching majority of the fight, though, but not in detail to where I'm scoring it. I felt like Derevyanchenko should have won. And a lot of people felt that way. But Jaime Munguia scoring that 12th round knockdown was significant. It ended up giving him the fight. But Derevyanchenko, nothing to shake his head about. He fucking fought his ass off in a great performance against a guy 10, 11 years younger in a fight that most people thought he wasn't going to even be in. So for him to perform that well was impressive as hell. And that's why that is my 2023 best performance in defeat. Goes to Sergey Derevyanchenko for his 12-round unanimous decision loss to Jaime Munguia. So that's it, guys. That's what I got. That's my 2023 boxing awards on the best performance in defeat. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.